doing diversity interviews or documentary, or she's a comedian, right?
Well, I'm a comedian and a speaker, and I developed a humorous diversity and inclusion program called Stereotyped 101. And actually, my focus is on inversity, which is a term I coined because I think it shouldn't be just about diversity. I think diversity is a polarizing word right now. Even though we all understand what it means, I think it's kind of been taken out of context, and it causes more division than it was intended to. So I like the term inversity because I think
That's great. That's ingenious.
it's about being, thank you, it's about being inclusive, right? Finding what we have in common with each other, as well as being introspective and understanding your value and your worth. Because if you don't see your value and your worth, how can you see it in someone else?
Well, does a person's race determine their character or their merits?
Absolutely not.
Right. That's a key fact of reality, right?
Your personality, who you are as a person. And, the idea of race, again, I know it sounds a little hippy-dippy, but there aren't other races. There's only one race, the human race. Yes, we come in different shades. We come with different hair textures. Some of us have better tans than others. I'm not commenting on yours.
It's pretty good when I get in the sun.
I bet you do. I bet you do get a good tan. But the reality is, these are these superficial things that we look at to separate ourselves from others. And it's bogus. And I'm calling BS on it because I think it's about time we understand and recognize that we are human beings. We all want the same things. We want respect, we want acceptance, and we want to be loved.
So we should judge people based on their actions,
Without
not
question.
on their race or your color of their skin.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But there's no denying that people's experiences, because of their ethnicities, because of their sexualities, because of how they've been grown up, their socioeconomic status, influence who they are as people. So you can't say that, it's not an excuse, but it's a factor to consider in why some people are the way they are, because they've had a different experience. And everyone's experience is valid. Everyone's experience is their truth. So one of the things I talk about in my program is having conscious empathy. And that means taking the time to see what it's like to be in someone else's shoes. I will never know what it's like to be a white man, just as you'll never know what it's like to be a black woman. But the idea is for you to...
We can use our imagination and project
Exactly.
and try to understand.
Exactly.
So, what do you think racism is? How would you define racism?
I think racism, in its purest sense, is people who are fearful of other people because they are different from them.
So you think it's fear? Isn't it judging people based on their race?
But it all stems from fear. You're afraid of someone who's different from you. You're afraid because it's unknown. And what is unknown to us is fearful.
Well, let me ask you some specific questions. If you think somebody has bad character because they're black, would that be racism?
It would fall under that category without question, yes.
And if you think somebody has bad character because they're white, would that also be racism?
Absolutely.
So if you won't let someone into your club or your organization because of their race, that would be racism, right?
Absolutely.
So here's a question. Can a white congressman become a voting member of the Congressional Black Caucus?
I think it would be kind of cool to have a voice of someone who is in a position of possibly more influence and power to be part of that organization. Without question. I understand why people would say, well, that's ironic. That's weird. Why would that,
Yeah,
but
I've
if
interviewed.
their intentions are purposeful and their intentions are to raise the profile of that group, to help that group go forward, I don't see why not.
Absolutely. So they have this rule that only black congressmen can become voting members. I've interviewed several of the congressmen, and
Why do they have that rule? Why do they have that
let
rule?
me tell you, I once interviewed Congressman Flake, and after a long discussion, I persuaded him they should change the rule.
And to which he said,
No, I persuaded him. He
you
agreed.
did change the rule, right?
No, they haven't changed the rule. He is one member.
Gotcha.
Was one member at the time. He's
Okay.
since retired, but
And he was Caucasian? He was white?
No, he was black.
Okay.
No. In order to be in the Congressional Black Caucus, you have to be
You
black.
have to be black, right?
You have to also be a congressman.
Okay.
There's two qualifications.
There you go.
So, but you cannot. A white congressman cannot become a voting member.
Okay.
After a long discussion with him, he agreed that they should change the rule. Like, are you agreed that they should change that rule? That it's a bad rule?
If they can find someone who is an advocate for their cause, I don't think there should be a limit on or any limitations on what skin color that person has.
Right. So they're using race as a factor
But why?
to.
Why are they doing that? Why was it even established? You know, it's kind of like, why was there a Black Miss America contest? You know, because for years there was no black people in Miss America, the regular Miss America. So they had to have some way to have acknowledgement of the beautiful, talented black women in this country. So, I think Black History Month is embarrassing. I don't think it should exist. You know why? Because I think Black history should be American history.
Yeah, it's part of American history.
But it's not considered part of it. It's like considered a separate entity. That's why it's,
Right.
you know,
But the Congressional Black Caucus, to get back to that, they're using race to evaluate the merits of entry into their organization. So that's a racist policy. Because previously you agreed that if you use race to determine whether somebody can be in your club or your organization, that's racism.
on some level, it could absolutely be considered that way.
Yeah, I think it's a shame because I agree with your first premise, which is you should treat people according to their actions.
Absolutely.
Not,
And it's
not according to their race.
without
And we
question.
shouldn't, our law should be colorblind.
They should be. But here's the deal. This is the problem with the colorblind. I'm so glad you brought up that term.
Yeah.
I don't think people can be colorblind because we don't live in that world.
Well, the law can be colorblind.
The
We
law
we
can
all
be
have
colorblind,
preferences.
but the
Some
people
people
who-
like
but the people
tall,
who-
others like short,
the people
some like
who-
heavy, others
the
like
people-
skinny.
The people who enact the law, the
Yeah.
people who are behind the law, they have to also honor that. And I think that's where we come into an issue of discrepancy. Because
But do you think that the law shouldn't be colorblind? You think that the law should
no, I think the
consider?
law should be, but I'm just
Oh,
saying
okay,
that
so
people,
we agree.
But people aren't. There's
Oh.
no way you can be color unless you're actually truly
Well,
blind.
That's true. There's
You're
a lot of
going to
racists
see-
out there.
And I think, but here's another thing. I think it's an
It's-
insult. I think it's an insult to people to say I don't see color, because what you're saying is I don't see your
No,
experience.
no. I agree that you see color. The issue is, are you going to treat a person in the law equally, if they, regardless of their race? And
Right.
I think we agree that you should treat
Well,
them
that's a
equally.
systematic problem. I mean, we're not treating people equally.
Well, we should, right?
We absolutely should.
Well, so we agree
Without
on that.
question.
So that is the fundamental here.
Mhm.
Now, that whether you want to be friends with this person because they're this way or that, that's your own personal business. But the law has to be fair and not use race as a factor to.
Agreed.
to-
And
to-
it should
to
be all the way
consider.
across the board. All the way across the board. But we also have to understand why was there even a need to develop the Black Caucus? Why did that even have to come into existence?
Well, I guess they felt that they have some particular problems that aren't being addressed. But the point is, there are white congressmen that agree that they want to address these particular problems that they have, and they should be let them in.
Listen,
Like I
if there
convinced-
are
I
white-
convinced Congressman
if
Flake,
there are
I-
white congressmen who want to join the Black Caucus because they support the cause, absolutely, I think they should be allowed in. I don't think there should be a rule that says only, people who look like us can belong. People who think like us, people who believe like us, people who have our agenda at heart. If that's part of the situation, then it should be open. But I think there needs to be an understanding of why it even existed in the first place.
Well, let's do
Why did it
that
have to come to be?
in the
Because
next
unfortunately
interview.
things weren't-
But I want to end it on a agreeable note.
Okay.
And I want to appreciate your openness to discuss your views
Absolutely.
and to think about the challenging questions that I ask.
It is.
If I
It's all
don't-
very. This is not. It's not a. This isn't a comfortable conversation. It's a conversation that's very emotional for many people. It's a conversation
But
that
you
challenges you.
You handle it fine.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you very much. It
And
was a
good
pleasure.
luck. Good luck with your show.
Thank you. Thank you. We're doing good work. We're having a good time, and our motto is laugh, think, grow. 'Cause if you can get people to laugh, you can get them to relax a little bit, have the uncomfortable conversations. You get them thinking, and then we grow. And that's what my
I
whole
think
point.
that's a good strategy.
Absolutely.
I bet I can't do it.
Oh, stop. Yes, you can. You can hold the mic. You can talk. You can make people
I
laugh.
can be funny. No, I lost that talent years ago. I'm going to leave it up to you.
There you go. Call me in. I'll be your wingman.
Take care.
Have a wonderful afternoon.